let's travel together in time to the past. 2 million years ago, somewhere in the African savannah, a hungry hominid, stomach growling, stops in front of a bush. Hanging there is a fruit he has never seen before, glossy, fragrant, tempting. His hands tremble as he holds it. Do I eat it? Don't I? Hunger is so intense, but so is fear, because that fruit could be his salvation or his death sentence. Our ancestor hesitates. He hesitates too long, and his body grows weaker. Finally, with the last of his strength gone, he lets the fruit fall, and falls with it. He will never know that the strange food in his hand was perfectly edible. Welcome to a new episode of Fresconomics. Today we are going to talk about why that prehistoric scene explains one of the biggest challenges facing the modern food industry, the brutal difficulty of innovating in the fresh produce business. I'm David Del Pino and this is Fresconomics. Welcome to the fresh produce business, a world where uncertainty is the only constant and volatility shapes every decision. Every day, remarkable people navigate this chaos with skill and courage. Join me as we explore the hidden logic of this industry to decode what others call unpredictable. Many years ago, back in the early 2000s, my company was about to launch a yellow cherry tomato. It was a difficult crop to grow, but the fruit was outstanding. Back then, I kept telling everyone in my inner circle, utterly convinced, we are about to launch the best tomato I've eaten in my life. I was absolutely certain I had something exceptional in my hands. Something that was going to let us once again eat the tomato specialty market for breakfast. And when the launch was almost upon us, like the proud son I am, I took my mother the scoop. Mom, I brought you something to try. Here, taste these tomatoes. My mother looked at the tomatoes with an air that was half disbelief and half there is no way on earth I'm eating that. And after I insisted, well, what wouldn't a mother do for her son? She reluctantly tried these gorgeous little round golden spheres. You were right, son. I'll give you that. These tomatoes are wonderful, exceptional. I haven't eaten tomatoes this good in ages, but don't ever bring them again. Hey, hang on. What has just happened? The tomatoes are stunning and she doesn't want me to bring any more? And above all, for those of you still listening carefully, what on earth does my mother's reactions have to do with the 2 million-year-old hominid ape I told you about in the introduction? Well, my mother's reaction put me on the trail of something every single person who works in food innovation ought to know. And that something is called the omnivores dilemma. It was somebody called Paul Rozin, a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, who gave this evolutionary drama its name. And it is one of the oldest conflicts of our species. As omnivores, we humans enjoy an enormous competitive advantage. We can eat almost anything. Plants, animals, fungi. Our diet is incredibly varied. That was what allowed us to colonize practically every corner of the planet, from the Arctic to the tropics. But that flexibility comes at a steep price, and that price is permanent uncertainty. A koala doesn't have this problem. It's eucalyptus, full stop. It doesn't give it another thought. A lion hunts zebras, simple. But us, the omnivores, every time we come across a new food, we have to solve an impossible equation. Is this going to feed me or is it going to kill me? And our brain, shaped by millions of years of evolution, developed a default answer. Food neophobia. The fear of the new, because out on the savannah, the reckless ones didn't leave descendants. The cautious ones did. That ancestral fear is still alive in us. We see it every day, every single day. Have you ever walked into a supermarket in another country, for example, and frozen in front of the fruit section? There they are, bright and colorful, but you don't recognize those fruits. And something inside you whispers, I better grab the bananas, at least I know what those are. That's neophobia. The studies confirm it again and again, and whenever new varieties of fruit and vegetables are introduced in the market, the adoption rate is painfully slow. People look at them, touch them, read the label, and in the end they reach back for the same old Granny Smith apples they always bought. It's not that we're stupid, it's that we are human, and our brain is designed to survive, not to experiment. Now let's give the idea another turn of the screw, because it isn't only innovation that suffers. Repeated sales take a hit too. In other corners of the food industry, say the processed food world, innovation is relentless. Every month, dozens of new snacks appear, soft drinks and impossible flavors, fusion, biscuits, yogurts that promise to take you to another dimension, and people buy them. They try them. They post them on Instagram. Why? Because industrial processing pulls off something very clever. It disguises the novelty. They sell you the same flavor you love, but with a hint of whatever. They play with familiar combinations. And above all, they standardize. When you buy a bag of crisps in flavor X, you know exactly what to expect. Every bag is identical. But a piece of fruit is unpredictable. You buy a mango, it might be perfect or it might be over the hill. It might be sweet or maybe bland. It might be stringy or buttery. Every single one is a question mark. And to our neophobic brain, that's terrifying. And so we arrive at the heart of the matter. Innovating in fresh produce means fighting against biology, against psychology, and against economics, all at the same time. So let's take a closer look. First, there is the time factor. Developing a new apple variety can take, 20 years? 20 years from the first pollination to having enough trees in production to launch commercially. 20 years betting that 2 decades from now people will want precisely that apple. Second, you cannot patent a fruit the way you patent a biscuit recipe. Sure, we have club varieties and brands exist, but the protection is limited. If your apple is a hit, within a few years there are going to be imitations. Another reason, third, the marketing investment is brutal because creating a wonderful new fruit isn't enough. You have to teach people to recognize it, to trust it, to fold it into their routine. The kiwi campaign in Europe took decades. The avocado campaign in the United States was a propaganda operation that ran for decades. And the fourth reason, the cruelest of all, the risk of failure is sky high because you can do everything right, create a wonderful product, invest millions, and watch people simply walk on by in the supermarket because, that color doesn't inspire confidence or that shape is weird. Of course, there are exceptions. Fascinating case studies. I like the example of the cotton candy grape, which literally tastes of candy floss, and it was a hit. Why? Because it played on something familiar. People understood the promise. A grape, but sweet like a childhood memory. The name did have the work. By the way, at home, we are divided. My youngest daughter and I love them. And my wife and my eldest daughter find them artificial. Once again, neophobia at work from the depths of the ancestral hominid mind. And I don't know if you're aware that, for example, the Gros Michel banana ruled the world until the 50s when a plague wiped it out. And we replaced it with the Cavendish variety, blonder but hardier. And people accepted it because it was still a banana. The name stayed, the shape stayed, the familiarity stayed. But for every success, there are 10 silent failures. Incredible varieties that never made it past the niche market. Tomatoes with complex flavors that went nowhere because they didn't look like real tomatoes, for example. Peppers in strange colors that ended up as nothing more than gastronomic eccentricities. Though we mustn't forget that in every hominid tribe, there was also someone who dared to taste, someone who overcame the fear. That small percentage of neophilic individuals, those attracted to the new things, who took a chance on unfamiliar things, opened up fresh sources of food for the tribe. True, some of them paid for it with their lives, but the group as a whole came out stronger. And here's the apparent irony. We live in the age of experimental gastronomy. People queue up to eat at restaurant servings forms of who knows what, and deconstructed jellies. We buy kombucha, we buy acai berries, goji berries, but we've learned that all that works because it comes wrapped in a story, with an influencer of some kind of figure of authority to vouch for it. With a promise of health or status, it arrives processed, packaged, with a price tag that signals, this is special, buy me. A plain new fruit in the supermarket usually has nothing of that narrative. It's just a lonely object staring back at us from the display, switching on our old ape fear. What if this hurts me? Or simply, well, maybe it's not that good. So, how do we innovate in this minefield? Well, there are a few things that help, and we've been already touching on them along the way already. Familiar anchoring is one of them. Present the new thing as a cousin of something known. It is not an alien fruit. It's like an orange, or it's like an orange, but only sweeter. Another factor is storytelling. Build a story. Pink Lady isn't just an apple. It's a lifestyle. Branding, of course, is everything. Another factor that you have to take into consideration is a slow normalization. Strategic appearances on cooking shows in the hands of famous chefs in easy recipes. Well, we need to create the familiarity before you ask for commitment. And of course, the institutional push always help. Educational campaigns, in-store tastings, a presence in schools. It helps to build trust from multiple angles. And of course, the health effect. If you can get the new thing perceived as a superfood, for example, the fear shrinks. The promise of well-being beats neophobia. We know that. So let's go back for a moment to our hominid in the savannah. He died, yes, but his bolder cousins survived. The ones who found the perfect balance between caution and curiosity. The ones who watched what the other animals ate. The ones who tried tiny amounts first. The one who shared information within the group and with other groups. And thanks to those brave experimenteers, today we eat, for example, pineapples, avocados, kiwis, mangoes, fruits that for many Europeans were utterly alien barely a century ago. Innovating in fresh produce is hard. As you can see, it's slow, it's risky, but isn't impossible. It just requires understanding that you are not selling vitamins and fiber. You're selling against millions of years of evolution. You're asking people to betray their most basic instincts. And that, my friends, takes more than a good product. It takes time, patience, psychology, a story that makes that strange fruit stop looking like a threat and start looking like a promise. Then again, don't give me too much credit. Remember that I still can get my own mother to eat the yellow cherry tomatoes. And that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I invite you to subscribe to Fresconomics on your favorite platform. You can find me on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and even on YouTube. And remember to share it with others. Help me connect with the community of professionals in the fresh produce industry. Although it may take a while, I promise to respond to any questions, contributions, or suggestions you may send to web@daviddelpino.com. And of course, you can also visit my blog at daviddelpino.com, where you'll find out how to get a copy of the book Fresconomics, along with articles and additional content. Until next time, take care and try to enjoy this crazy business.